The 2026 NFL Draft Board is taking shape, and there's one position battle happening right now in our war room that could define whether this defense takes the next step toward elite status or remains frustratingly inconsistent. I'm talking about a decision that goes beyond just adding talent. This is about identifying the exact type of player who fits what Matt Eberflus demands from his secondary and having the courage to go get him before another team steals that opportunity. Welcome to Bears News Fan Report, where I bring you the latest updates, strategic breakdowns, and honest conversations about our beloved Chicago Bears. Today we're diving into draft strategy, positional value, and a Clemson product whose name keeps surfacing in conversations about fixing our most glaring defensive weakness. Let me paint the picture of where we currently stand as an organization. The Bears have made significant strides in recent years, building a competitive roster, particularly on offense where we've invested heavily in skill position players and protecting our quarterback. The defense has shown flashes of dominance, moments where our pass rush overwhelms opponents and our linebackers fly around making plays. But there's been one consistent vulnerability that opposing offensive coordinators exploit week after week, and that's our inability to consistently lock down receivers on the outside. We've tried Band-Aid solutions, we've rotated personnel, we've adjusted schemes, yet the problem persists. The secondary has been a revolving door of veterans on short-term deals and developmental players who haven't quite reached the level needed to compete with elite receiving corps. When you face offenses led by Aaron Rodgers twice a year, when you're going up against Justin Jefferson and the Vikings, when playoff aspirations require shutting down explosive passing attacks, you need cornerbacks who can win one-on-one matchups without constant safety help over the top. That's not what we've had consistently, and everyone in the organization knows it needs to change. Looking ahead to the 2026 NFL Draft, the Bears are currently positioned in the back end of the first round, sitting at pick 25. That's the reality of improving as a team and winning more games you draft later, and the elite prospects are already gone by the time your selection comes around. But here's where draft strategy becomes fascinating and where smart organizations separate themselves from the rest of the pack. Draft position isn't set in stone, it's a starting point for negotiation. Teams trade up and down constantly, swapping future picks and current assets to land players they've identified as perfect fits. The mock drafts floating around league circles right now tell an interesting story about how this first round could unfold. Quarterbacks are dominating the top selections as expected, with teams desperate to find their franchise signal caller making aggressive moves to secure those prospects. But interspersed throughout are elite defensive players, particularly in the secondary, getting snatched up by teams who understand that championship defenses are built on the ability to cover receivers and create turnovers. Cornerbacks with legitimate NFL traits are going earlier than many anticipated, which creates urgency for teams like Chicago who need that position addressed. Around pick 24, there's a name that should have every Bears fan paying close attention. Avion Terrell, out of Clemson, has been generating significant draft buzz based on his combination of speed, aggressiveness, and ball skills. The Clemson defensive back program has a reputation for producing NFL-ready cornerbacks, and Terrell represents another potential success story from that pipeline. His tape shows a player who thrives in press coverage, who isn't afraid of physical receivers, and who has the recovery speed to make up for the occasional mistake that all young corners make. Current projections have Buffalo selecting Terrell at 24, one spot ahead of where the Bears are sitting. The Bills have their own secondary needs and the resources to address them, making them a real threat to take the cornerback Chicago desperately needs. This is where the chess match begins, because if the Bears' scouting department has identified Terrell as their guy, as the cornerback who fits their scheme perfectly and has the upside to become a legitimate shutdown corner, then sitting at 25 and hoping he falls becomes an unacceptable risk. Trading up one spot might seem insignificant, but in draft terms, it could be the difference between landing your target and settling for your fourth or fifth option at the position. The cost wouldn't be astronomical, probably a mid-round pick swap or perhaps a future day 3 selection, something manageable that doesn't gut your draft capital. But it requires conviction from the decision makers, a belief that this specific player is worth the additional investment to guarantee he's wearing a Bears uniform. Terrell's skill set aligns beautifully with what Eberflus wants from his cornerbacks. The speed allows him to match up with faster receivers on vertical routes, critical in a division where you're facing explosive offenses regularly. His aggressiveness fits the tone Eberflus has been trying to establish defensively, a physical presence that sets the edge and makes receivers uncomfortable throughout their routes. Ball skills translate to turnover opportunities, and creating takeaways has been a point of emphasis for this defense since Eberflus arrived. Let's talk about the alternative scenario where the Bears stay at 25 and take Romello Height, an edge rusher out of Texas Tech who brings length and developmental upside. Height isn't a bad player by any means. He has tools that could develop into a quality pass rusher with proper coaching. But here's my question to you. Does adding another developmental edge rusher address the pressing need that's costing us games right now? We have pass rush pieces, we're building that rotation, but we're hemorrhaging yards and points because receivers are running free in our secondary. The strategic decision comes down to positional value versus immediate need. Do you draft for the future and hope your current cornerback situation magically improves? Or do you address the glaring weakness with a prospect who has the traits to contribute immediately? Championship windows in the NFL are narrower than people realize, and wasting seasons hoping problems fix themselves is how organizations squander opportunities. The time to act decisively is now, while we have a young quarterback on a rookie contract, while we have offensive weapons in their prime, while the defensive infrastructure is in place, except for that one missing piece. Trading up for Terrell wouldn't just be about acquiring a talented cornerback. It would signal a shift in organizational philosophy toward aggressive roster construction. It would show the fan base and the rest of the league that Chicago is serious about competing for championships and willing to make bold moves to address weaknesses. The Bears have been conservative in recent drafts, mostly staying put and taking best available player. Sometimes you need to break that pattern and go get your guy. The financial aspect also favors making this move. Cornerbacks drafted in the late first round come with manageable rookie contracts that provide tremendous value if the player develops as expected. Terrell would be under team control for 4 years with a fifth-year option, giving the Bears cost certainty at a premium position while allowing them to allocate resources elsewhere in free agency. Compare that to signing a veteran cornerback in free agency, where you're paying top dollar for a player entering his decline phase. I keep coming back to the same fundamental question when I evaluate this scenario. If Vion Terrell is sitting there at 24 and the Bears have graded him as a potential long-term starter who solves their biggest defensive problem, how do you justify not doing whatever it takes to move up one spot? The risk of Buffalo taking him is real, their secondary needs are documented, and Pete Carroll's defense in Las Vegas runs similar coverage concepts that would make Terrell a natural fit there too. The excitement I feel about this possibility is genuine because it represents the kind of proactive decision-making that championship organizations make consistently. They identify their targets early, they evaluate the board strategically, and they act decisively when opportunities present themselves. Hoping your needs get addressed by players falling to you is passive roster construction, and passive organizations don't win Super Bowls. Let me be clear about something important. I'm not saying Terrell is the only cornerback worth considering in this draft, or that trading up is guaranteed to work out perfectly. Draft picks are inherently uncertain, and even highly graded prospects can fail to develop as expected. But the combination of need, talent evaluation and strategic positioning makes this a scenario worth serious consideration from Bears management. Looking at recent draft history, the teams that have built elite secondaries did so by being aggressive in targeting cornerback talent when it was available. They didn't wait and hope, they acted. The Bears have an opportunity here to follow that blueprint to land a cornerback with genuine starting potential while he's still available before another team makes the decision for them. That's not speculation or wishful thinking, that's strategic roster management. The next few months leading up to the draft will be fascinating as we see how the Bears board takes shape and what priority they place on addressing the secondary. If Terrell continues climbing draft boards based on his tape and pre-draft process, the urgency to move up will only increase. The cost of trading from 25 to 24 remains reasonable, and the potential payoff of landing your cornerback of the future makes it a calculated risk worth taking. My honest assessment after breaking down this entire situation is that Chicago should absolutely explore moving up if Terrell is their top-graded cornerback. The positional need is too great, the talent level is too high, and the risk of missing out is too significant to be passive here. This defense needs a cornerback who can start immediately and grow into a shutdown player. And if the scouting department believes Terrell can be that guy, then make the call to Buffalo and get it done. Now I want to hear from you because this decision affects all of us as fans invested in this team's success. Do you think the Bears should trade up to grab Avion Terrell if he's available at 24? Or would you prefer staying at 25 and taking whoever falls? Is cornerback the pressing need I'm describing? Or do you see other positions that deserve higher priority? Should Chicago be aggressive in addressing the secondary or stick with building through later rounds and free agency? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I value your perspective on how this organization should approach the draft. If this breakdown gave you insight into the strategic decisions facing the Bears this offseason, make sure you're subscribed to Bears News Fan Report and hit that notification bell. I'm bringing you daily updates on draft prospects, free agency targets, and every move that impacts our quest to bring championship football back to Chicago. This is where we go beyond surface-level coverage and dive into the real decisions that shape this franchise's future. Smash that like button, share this with fellow Bears fans, and let's keep this conversation going. Bear down!